Do you or your organization struggle to consistently produce relevant content that moves the needle for marketing, sales, fundraising, recruitment, internal branding, and other critical activities? If so, I'm sure it's not because you don't know your field, or you don't know how to put together words, sentences, and paragraphs. After all, you probably write expert emails all week long about your business. But does this sound like you and/or your organization? You're a leader in product management, professional services, sales, marketing, or communication. Maybe you are a member of the senior leadership team. You work for a B2B company, a nonprofit, or a government agency. Or maybe you're a self-employed professional striving to build your own personal brand, either full-time or with a side hustle. But when you step back and reflect on how you're doing with creating and sharing effective content, maybe you see outdated, unused, misaligned, or rogue sales and promotional materials. Maybe you see a dead and dying blog or no blog at all. You might have low social media audience numbers or engagement. Maybe you have no earned media in print, web, or video. Or maybe you're missing goals for revenues, leads, recruiting, retention, and fundraising. All of these are potential symptoms of weak, unsustainable, or non-existent content strategy. Yet despite these symptoms, you know that you and your organization have a lot of knowledge and value to offer and could be having more impact and more success. And yet when you try to start or restart your content efforts, you feel frustrated all over again. You find that you don't know what to write or why. Maybe you have ideas, but you don't know how to align them with your mission, your market, and your brand. You don't know how to target the content that you do make to reach specific audiences. You don't know how to write consistently, especially across multiple platforms. And you don't know how to build or reuse the content you already have. Your struggles aren't because you don't work hard or you don't know your profession. Your struggles come because you lack a system for repeatedly generating content ideas that are compelling to read, relevant to your market, and aligned with your brand, mission, and goals. In other words, you need to think like a content strategist. Maybe you get so frustrated that you wonder, what's the point? Why does consistent content matter anyway? Well, hello, and welcome to Think Like a Content Strategist. In this presentation, I'll show you how to consistently develop powerful strategic content week after week, year after year, without repeating ideas or wandering off topic. Sustainable content development drives all forms of organizational promotion and communication, and can even boost your personal brand. Watch this presentation all the way through to see 3 case studies of content marketing campaigns that have lasted for decades with global impact. I'll identify the multiple dimensions of the content model and how to make them work for you. You'll find out 4 ways to select what content to publish now for maximum effect. You'll also learn 4 ways to create series of content for more depth. Plus I'll give you tips on blogging, SEO, and more. You'll want to grab some paper and pen because you'll be sketching out your own content model as we go. At the end of this presentation, you'll have multiple ideas for content that you could create right now to motivate your audiences and move closer to your goals. So who am I? I'm Matthew Spohr. I've focused my career on content in one form or another. For the past 15 years, I've worked primarily in product and content marketing. I've also worked as a corporate communicator, a journalist, newspaper publisher, technical writer. Over my career, I've worked for multinational corporations, nonprofits, small businesses, and startups. I've published articles and blogs and web content and collateral for years on the same products and topics without running out of ideas or straying from my goals. I've generated award-winning content related to enterprise software, the Internet of Things, big data analytics and visualization, energy and water utilities, education, and HR consulting, just to name a few. It helps that I have both an MBA degree and a Master's of Fine Arts in Writing. But here's a personal example of sustained content. After years of publishing weekly blogs for my personal marketing blog, I decided to cut back to monthly posts so I could take on other writing projects that interested me. But this lasted barely a few months because I had so many things that I wanted to write about that I couldn't stand the backlog. I struck a compromise with myself and switched to 2 posts a month, at least for now. To see why consistent strategic content matters, let's consider 3 inspiring examples from the Content Marketing Hall of Fame: tractors, tires, and beer. The 3 companies I'll profile here have used decades of content marketing to drive their brands to global prominence. If these brands can find value in content marketing efforts lasting 60 years to more than 120 years, there must be something of value for your brand as well. The first example is Guinness Beer, who started the Book of Records in 1955. That means it's closing in on 65 years in print. It started when the managing director of the brewery, Sir Hugh Beaver, got into a debate on a hunting trip with his friends about what was the fastest flying bird in Europe. They realized that without a definitive source of information, they couldn't settle their question. Sir Hugh also realized that debates like this must happen every night in the Irish pubs that served his beer. So why not create a book to settle bets? They ended up giving away the first edition for free. But today, the Guinness Book of World Records has become the best-selling copyrighted book of all time. More than 100 million copies, 23 countries, printed in 100 languages. It has even spawned museums and TV series. And the Guinness brand today, just the brand itself, is valued at $2.4 billion. The next example are Michelin guides with their restaurant ratings, which started in 1900. Now you might wonder what restaurants have to do with tires. Well, in 1900, there were fewer than 3,000 cars on the roads in France. The Michelin brothers were looking for a way to increase their tire sales. They decided that they should stimulate interest in travel, which would drive car sales, which would then boost tire sales. They distributed nearly 35,000 copies of their first edition when there were only 3,000 cars on the road. For their guide, they developed their famous star rating. 1 star meant a very good restaurant in its category. 2 stars meant excellent cooking, worth a detour. And 3 stars said exceptional cuisine, worth a special journey. Even more than a century ago, metrics mattered. And the Michelin brothers tied their metrics to what they wanted readers to do: take a detour, make a journey. Today, the Michelin star system is the pinnacle of restaurant ratings, and the Michelin brand is valued at $5.9 billion. The last example I'm going to talk about is John Deere. They first printed the Furrow in 1895. Their magazine originally came in 17 different regional versions to provide regional-specific articles and tips. The Furrow has had to evolve over the years. Today it focuses on photojournalism and rural lifestyle. It doesn't try to compete with content that's more informative or technical in nature. With the internet, there's just no way to compete on those grounds, but they're still publishing. And people collect back issues of the Furrow. If you can find a copy of that very first issue, you'll be happy and rich. More than 120 years in print. Now that's a model of consistency. Today, the Furrow reaches more than 500,000 people in the US and Canada, and more than 2 million subscribers globally. And John Deere is considered one of the top 100 brands in the world. Interbrand valued the John Deere brand at $4.8 billion in 2016. As the preceding examples show, the good news is that you can sustain content marketing that aligns with your brand, reaches your desired audiences, and builds your business. It starts with thinking like a content strategist, which means thinking about the dimensions of your content. The interaction of 2 or more dimensions of content is what makes for compelling material to share with your audiences. That interaction is also what generates multiple content ideas. If that idea sounds abstract, don't worry. In this section, I'll show you exactly what I mean. We're going to build a multidimensional model of how to think about content. You might want to grab some scratch paper and a pen or pencil. You can build your own multidimensional content model as we go. Draw your own diagram and fill it in with your own ideas. If you need to pause the video to draw or take notes, go ahead. But remember to watch this video all the way to the end to get your free gift. So grab your paper and pen and follow along as we map out the dimensions of content. The first dimension of content that you need to think about is the market you serve. A market is simply a group of people who buy, sell, or use the same product or service. There's a wide variety of markets, almost as varied as the type of organizations and businesses out there. Some examples might be the data analytics needs of Fortune 100 companies, immigrant families in need of resettlement services, or residents in an unincorporated part of your county needing access to clean and affordable water. Ideally, helping solve the problems of your market is part of what excites you about your job. A market contains many different types of people. Some are brand new to the market, while others are loyal brand fanatics. All markets have some sort of segmentation, customer life cycle, or maturity cycle. You should already have a segmentation diagram or approach for your market. If you're new to your job, you might be able to find a segmentation approach that's common for your industry. For analytics, market segments might be the stages of data ingestion, preparation, computation, visualization, and publication. When working with immigrant families, market segments might be the needs of shelter, food, jobs, health, daily living, and social connection. For water customers, market segments might be water transmission, distribution, billing, conservation, and wastewater collection. So put the segments or stages of your market on a horizontal axis, like I've shown here. Note that these are not the stages in your sales or support funnel. Sales and marketing professionals will be tempted to go there. We'll get to those soon enough. The second dimension of your content strategy should be easy. It's the goods and services you offer to meet the needs of your market. Your offerings might be items that you manufacture, import, or resell. They might be software programs or digital assets like publications and videos. Your offerings might be services such as consulting or counseling or coaching. I'm sure that you already have a list of what you offer to your market, at least in your head, if not written down somewhere. Put your offerings on a vertical axis that intersects the horizontal axis that has your market segments. And if you offer a mix of goods and services, go ahead and include them here. It's okay to mix and match. So if you're sketching along with me, you now have your product market grid. Your offerings are the rows of the grid, and your market stages or segments are the columns. Each intersection of row and column represents a specific offering targeted to a specific market stage or segment. This grid is a very useful tool. It supports a lot of activities in strategic planning, budgeting, sales, and product development. But today we'll use the grid for content strategy. Some of you are already sensing the content possibilities here. For any intersection of offering and market, you can think about what you might want to share with your customers or prospects. For example, what are the particular features of an offering that make it suited to a specific market segment? How does your offering compare to competing offerings for that specific market segment? Or when is a customer or prospect ready to move to another offering of yours? So I hope you're doodling along. Make some notes about ideas that pop into your head when you think about a specific intersection of offering and product. You might think about a particular product opportunity or a market segment that you don't think you're fully serving at the moment. Not every one of your offerings will appeal to or address every segment of your market, and that's okay. Those empty intersections are opportunities for new offerings, partnerships, or competitive research. And if you're not quite seeing all of this, hang in there. Sometimes it's hard to get your brain thinking in new ways. I have examples coming up that I think will help you. To make your two-dimensional product market grid a powerful tool for content strategy, you need to add any number of third dimensions. I call them depth dimensions. These are lenses or frames through which you can study your product market grid to find new content possibilities. The possibilities for depth dimensions are vast. Depth dimensions for content can be your brand values. It could be your target personas of buyers or decision makers. It could be a stage in your sales or support funnel. It might be your sales regions or verticals. It could be relevant trends and topics such as compliance, safety, and digital transformation. If you're drawing along with me, what are some of the depth dimensions that come to mind for you? Go ahead and write them down. Once you have this three-dimensional model, you can easily generate a number of content ideas that are naturally aligned with your market and offerings. This system can generate a lot of new ideas. Every depth dimension that you identify leads to multiple new content ideas. And in fact, you might not initially understand what a new content idea points to, and that's a good thing. It gives you the chance to discover new information and opportunities. When I was the publisher of a weekly newspaper, I told my writers that our readers won't have fun if our staff wasn't having fun. And the same applies here. If you're feeling a sense of curiosity, exploration, and discovery, chances are your audience will feel it too when they consume your content. If you don't know what a topic or headline points to, there's probably a subject matter expert in your organization or out in your market who does know and whom you can interview. This model helps you generate insightful questions for when you interview subject matter experts. Not seeing this yet? Don't worry. In the next section, I'll show you examples of how this can work. And remember to watch all the way through to get your free gift. Now I'm going to show you examples of what a multidimensional content model might look like for different organizations and industries. I'll show you a large tech company, a medium-sized nonprofit, a small services firm, and a personal blog. You'll see how this system generates multiple topics or headlines, which you can then develop into content in multiple formats. As I go through these examples, keep your own three-dimensional model handy. I think that you'll start to see the content ideas pile up. Let's start with a hypothetical large technical company. This company has business units that address the home, small business, enterprise, and government markets. These markets reside on the horizontal dimension of the product market grid. The business units of the company offer a number of products for these markets, including laptops, desktops, servers, printers, software, and services. You can put these on the vertical dimension of the grid. The company has a range of depth dimensions. Security and the Internet of Things are overarching concerns in the technology world. Those can be depth dimensions. Several business units deal with the healthcare, financial, and insurance sectors. Those can be depth dimensions as well. Technology is a fast-moving sector, so current trends from the tech news could be a third dimension. Putting all this together quickly leads to some content topics, such as combining the laptop offering with current trends in the healthcare market might lead you to write about new mobile technology for nurses. Or combining services for the financial market with security, you could write about security services for financial providers. You could combine software offerings for the home market with the Internet of Things and write about selecting the right home automation software for you. Next, let's talk about a mid-sized nonprofit that works to improve literacy. The nonprofit works in market segments for families, schools, adult readers, and English as a second language or English language learners, known as ESL or ELL. You can put these markets on the horizontal dimension of your grid. The nonprofit has programs that research literacy, offer consulting to other organizations, conduct professional development for educators, and publish literacy-related materials. put these offerings on the vertical dimension. Literacy is a complex social issue that comes with a lot of depth dimensions. Policy, neuroscience, and cultural awareness all factor in. So with this model, you could combine the research into neuroscience with the school market to explore applying neuroscience breakthroughs in the classroom. If you join the target publishing policy topics for the ESL market, you can produce an annual legislative and policy update for ESL professionals. Or you can bring cultural awareness and professional development to the ESL market. You can write about the enlisting of Latino parents in early childhood literacy. Our third example is a small professional services firm in the water industry. The firm works across all phases of the water sector: generation or finding sources of water, water treatment, transmission, distribution, and then wastewater collection. You would put these market phases on the horizontal dimension of your product market grid. The firm offers design, engineering, construction, and consulting services. Go ahead and put these offerings on the vertical dimension. Water deals with regulation, conservation, climate change. In the US, most water services are delivered by municipal governments as well. All of these can be depth dimensions. So putting these all together might lead you to write on topics such as designing water treatment systems for climate change, new regulations for building water treatment plants, or the impacts of water conservation on wastewater systems. Those are all meaty topics for researching content opportunities. The last example comes from a personal professional blog, mine. My blog deals with the interaction between the public sector and the marketing profession. I call it Marketing the Social Good. My market segments are social goods such as transportation, public health, housing, education, energy, water, food, and many others. Those go on the horizontal dimension of my model. My offerings are the classic marketing concerns of product design, distribution, pricing, and promotion. Those go on the vertical dimension. Now, social goods in the public sector raise a lot of depth dimensions, such as fairness, scale, systems thinking, and cities. So putting these all together quickly leads to recent topics such as treating urban trees and the rest of nature as critical public infrastructure, or distributing help to the homeless, or designing immigration solutions. With this system, I've published my blog for more than 5 years and more than 300 posts. And as I said at the start, I tried cutting back on writing on this blog to just 1 post a month, but I found I had just too many ideas piling up from this model that I felt compelled to write. And right now, even at 2 a month, I'm probably identifying more good ideas than I'm completing each month. I hope that those 4 examples gave you a real feel for how to think strategically across multiple dimensions to continually generate new content. Now I'll show you how to put that thought process into action. I'll show you how to select content, build series of content, structure your blog, conduct SEO keyword research, and reuse content. I hope that those 4 examples gave you a real feel for how to think strategically across multiple dimensions to continually generate new content. Now I'll show you how to put that thought process into action. I'll show you how to select content, build series of content, structure your blog, conduct SEO keyword research, and reuse content. So once you establish your multidimensional content model, you may find that you have so many ideas that it's overwhelming. You need to know where to start and where to focus. Now, it's a nice problem to have. It's certainly better than not knowing what to write or why. Remember that you don't have to cover all of your possible topics at once. In fact, you probably can't. Some will be more timely and meaty and relevant than others. Some topical combinations of product, market, and depth will be dead ends for you, at least for now. So what criteria can you use to decide where to focus? Here are some guidelines. First, follow your passion. It's hard to continue generating content when you don't feel passion for your topic. Next, ask your salespeople. What do they think is the quickest path to revenue? Is there a particular combination of market and offering that sells the best for your organization or is suddenly in demand? You could start there. You could also ask your salespeople, where are they focused? What content would help them answer common questions, overcome objections, enter new markets, or beat the competition? You could survey your market. Ask your customers and prospects, what do they want to know more about? You can do an email survey, a pop-up form on your website, informal chats with existing customers, or formal focus groups. You should check your analytics. What can you learn from your web analytics, social media metrics, event attendance, and feedback? There are a lot of places to look and see what is getting more traction or what opportunities await. And ask your influencers in your market segments. What are the industry journalists, analysts, and thought leaders in your sector talking about? Can you respond to, expand on, or clarify the discussion? Or better yet, what are they not writing about that you think is being overlooked? So longer forms of content like blog and video series, white papers, and ebooks can be very powerful for motivating and converting people who are seriously considering your offerings. Remember, buyers do half or more of their research and decision making before they ever contact you directly. But creating longer forms of content can be daunting. Our content model makes it easier to commit to and complete longer forms of content. Now, some content marketing leaders and companies recommend that you write your complete longer piece or pieces of content first and then break it up into smaller reusable chunks. Now, that's not wrong, but it's hard to do and it's time consuming, especially for smaller organizations who don't have the staff and the luxury of time. Plus, you end up putting in a lot of work before you get any feedback from the marketplace. I think you should strategically go about your efforts, which means starting with your end goal in mind. Plan for a longer piece of content and even write the outline or table for that, but then build and publish your content piece by piece. Then when you're done, you can collect the pieces and republish it as the larger whole. Now, there are ways to slice and dice this multidimensional content model to generate outlines for longer forms of content, and also immediately identify individual pieces that you can work on and publish now. For instance, you could create a product-focused series of content, simply describing the features and benefits of a single product across all your market segments that you serve has value. You can write this one market segment at a time. Have you done that yet? You can also create a product line series, presenting your entire product line in relation to one market segment gives your sales team ammo. You can write this one product at a time. This can also be sections on your website or in an ebook that you promote to the market. Another idea is creating a topical series of content. By discussing all of your market segments through the lens of one of your depth dimensions, you create a topical series. This can give you strong lead generation material. And you can create a market series. By combining your entire product line, one market segment, and a depth dimension, such as buying personas or service regions, creates a market series that's strong mid-funnel content. So from here, you can choose the medium or mediums that best fit your subject and audience to deliver your content. You can make chunks of content such as videos, webinars, podcasts in a series. You could do posts in a blog series. You could do sections in one or several white papers. You could create posts or updates in a social media campaign. You could do emails in a lead nurturing campaign. You could even do units in an online course. So your content model also builds the bones of your blog. Use the terms from your content model for your blog categories and tags. For those of you who aren't bloggers, categories are like the chapters in a book or sections in a newspaper or magazine, whereas tags are like terms in an index. Either your market segments or your offerings could be categories, but don't do both. Both gets confusing. Making markets your categories creates a more customer-centric blog, whereas making offerings into your blog categories creates a more company-centric blog, unless there's a very strong correlation between your offerings and the markets that you serve. So whatever content dimension labels that you don't use for categories should become tags in your blog. Now your blog will naturally also include some standard categories to cover expected items such as press releases and media mentions and corporate announcements and events, whatever. In my experience, blog content with well-structured categories and tags like this does better in SEO. Having well-structured categories and tags also makes it easier to reuse subsets of your content. Many content management systems have ways to use these structured subsets of content as standalone dynamic elements on web pages and on microsites and landing pages and thank you pages. Now, the dimensions of your content model also form the starting point for your SEO keyword research. Mix and match your labels to create SEO keywords, and then feed those keywords into a research tool like Google Keyword Planner. Remember that your content model is a starting point of keyword research, not the end point. SEO changes rapidly and moves quickly. So for SEO, you need to go where the research leads you. If you're a heavily digital business or sector, your keyword research might even lead back to new or revised depth dimensions for your model. So now that you've drawn on your content model to create multiple pieces of content and even series of content, you may want to get the most out of what you've done. Finding new uses for existing content can be easier than creating new content from scratch, even with a multidimensional content model. Here are 4 ways you can reuse your existing content. 1 is you can collect related smaller pieces into a longer piece. We've already touched on this. If you've been following one or more dimensions of your model in planning and writing your content, then pieces of content will have natural alignment and will easily come together into new, longer forms and combinations of content. Longer pieces are usually used further down the sales funnel. Conversely, if you do have long pieces, you can offer a separate executive summary or report highlight that's drawn from the longer piece. This can be good top of the funnel or lead generation content. You can reformat content to reach new audiences or work with new channels. For instance, you can adapt a blog series into a video series. You could take a data-driven piece and make an infographic summary of that. You could then use individual sections of that infographic as separate social media posts. If you have a piece of content that proves it has a consistent audience, build on that by updating it for new research, new policies, or other changes. Update as often as things change and your audience wants. It could be yearly, quarterly, monthly, it might even be weekly or daily. This is how John Deere and Michelin and Guinness achieved their long-running content marketing success. When I discuss content strategy with clients, I often hear similar questions and concerns. So one of them is, do I really need to bother with all of this? And I say yes you do, for several reasons. Today you may be publishing just one blog and one email newsletter a month. You still need to have a model to keep track of what you're working on. Having a model also helps you see all the possibilities and to prioritize among them. If you get to publish just 1 or 2 items a month, are you picking the right items? If you have more product managers and division heads asking to be featured in your content than you have space to feature them, how do you prioritize? You've got to have a strategy and a model. Some clients say, we don't have a lot of resources, so we usually just wait until we have something worth publishing. And in my experience, I see people who wait to publish a newsletter or email or blog post until they feel like they have something worth saying. Invariably, nothing ever seems worthy enough to bother. By committing to a schedule as well as a content model, you'll be continually publishing strong content on a regular schedule. In fact, you start to notice material that can fill your upcoming blog slot or email or newsletter. Your readers, your audience, your market will notice your regular publications and start to look for your content. Some people ask, does this approach scale? People often think that their content needs are either too small to warrant this amount of work, or they're way too big to be contained in a model. And I can say this approach scales up and down. You can lay out the big picture and then start small and test. You can grow your effort by taking on additional initiatives by adding market segments or depth dimensions as you build out your content effort. You can farm out topics or beats or identify people already working on a particular intersection of your model dimensions. And you can build this model for your entire global organization if you want, or limit it to a business unit or a product line or a market segment or a length of time, like a year or a selling season. So some clients say, how do I get organizational buy-in for my content? And I definitely understand where they're coming from. I find that the hardest parts of content work are getting cross-functional agreement at the start of a content effort and then expert review towards the end before publication. Having a model that everyone agrees on should make these 2 pain points easier. The first 2 dimensions of your model, the product market grid, should be fundamental to what your organization does and how it thinks. Your depth dimensions can be driven by you, the marketing department, or sales, or senior leadership. If you get your stakeholders to help prioritize which dimensions of the model to focus on, then input and buy-in for specific content efforts should be easier. If those on your approval loop don't immediately see how your proposal or content aligns with their goals and their concerns, then you have the tools and the terms in the model to help persuade them. Now, so far we've covered a lot of ground. We've gone through building a multidimensional content model. We've covered examples of what content models look for different types and sizes of organization. We've gone through actually implementing the content model, and we've talked about common questions about effort and scale and organizational support and buy-in. So at this point, I'm wondering, how does it feel for you adopting this mindset of a content strategist? I hope that now you're seeing a lot of opportunity. Maybe you're feeling excited and motivated and ready to take this all on. But I have to admit, maybe you're feeling overwhelmed after seeing all the opportunities and ideas and details, and you're wondering how you're going to capitalize on all of this given your current constraints. If you're thinking you might need some help in implementing a sustainable content strategy, here are 4 ways that I can lend a hand. And yes, I'm going to take a moment to talk about my services. You have no obligation to buy or even to listen to these ways that I can help. Feel free to take what I've given you today and build success for your organization or for your own personal brand. I've learned so much from others freely sharing their knowledge that I'm happy to pay it forward here with you. But I do encourage you to stick around though, because the 4 roles I'm about to outline are roles that you need in your content effort, whether you hire outside help like me, keep it all in-house, or end up doing it all yourself as a team of one. As I go through these 4 roles, if you see something that piques your interest or resonates with you, click on the link below. This will take you to a form where you can fill in your name, your address, and your request. And I promise I'll get back to you within 2 business days. So the first way I can help you is by auditing your content. In a content audit, I gather and review your existing materials to identify problems and opportunities. People are amazed at what a fresh pair of eyes can spot in their content. I usually find items that are out of date, inaccurate, duplicates, or they're improperly branded. I usually also spot opportunities to significantly improve content and processes, maybe ways to reuse existing content and suggestions for new content efforts in support of your stated goals. There are lots of ways to structure a content audit. It can be limited by number of hours, pieces of content, types of content, division within the organization, product lines. You see where it goes. I can do it for a fixed fee or for an hourly fee. And if this sounds like what you need, go ahead and click the link below to go to the contact form and tell me you're interested in a content audit. The next way that I can help is by creating content for you. I can create and implement specific pieces of content for you to update materials you already have, to fill holes in your content inventory, or to capitalize on opportunities. This is useful if your new content strategy skills have identified an opportunity that you want to immediately pursue, but you don't have the resources on staff. Now, I've worked in print, online, video, social media, byline articles, white papers, blog posts, presentations, sales trainings, you name it. I've also worked in many different industry sectors and types of organizations. We can structure a content creation project as a fixed price per piece or project, or an hourly fee for ongoing work such as blogging and newsletters. So if you think you want to talk about my help in creating strategic content for you, click the link below to go to the contact form and tell me you want help with creating content. The third way that I can help is by building content strategy for you. Maybe you can see the possibilities in this presentation and have a capable content generation and distribution staff, but you want an expert to come in and build your content model with and for you. Well, I'm your person. I can study your existing materials, interview your organization leaders and subject matter experts, review relevant trade and industry media, and develop a multi-dimensional content model that works for you. And in doing so, I can also present high priority opportunities that I see for content that meets your organizational goals. Because after all, strategy should be in the service of goals, right? So I think this sort of work is usually best done as a per hour project. We can certainly define the scope of the project to limit both cost and duration. So if you're looking for new strategic direction, click on the link below to go to the contact form and tell me you're interested in getting help with building content strategy. And a fourth way that I can help you is by leading your content effort. Maybe you just need someone to come start or restart or jumpstart your content. I can bring my auditing, strategy building, and creation skills to bear in helping you reach your goals. Now, if you need an ongoing marketing director, content director to support your organization, click on the link to go to the contact form and tell me you want my help in leading your content effort. And if you're wondering what help for content costs, here are my prices. As you can see, I negotiate my hourly rates with clients based on the size and type of organization and the scope of work. Now, I base my rates on the national survey published each year by the Writers Market. They survey organizations across the country that hire freelance and contract help for a wide variety of content-related work. Now, if you'd like, for projects where the type and scope of work is well defined, I'm happy to negotiate a fixed price per project. So, let's review what we've built during this presentation. In this presentation, you've learned 6 symptoms of a struggling content effort. you've seen 3 examples of enduring content from Guinness and from Deere and from Michelin. I've shown you 3+ dimensions of the content model and 4 examples of how that content model can work. I've given you 4 tips for selecting which content to develop now and 4 ways to build series of content. I showed you 2 ways to translate your content model into blog structure, so your blog has solid bones and does well in SEO. And I've shown you 4 tricks for reusing existing content. You can apply these to your content efforts to become the content strategist for your organization, team, or personal brand. Maybe you'll launch something as great and long-lasting as the Michelin Guides and the Guinness Book of World Records. And remember, if you need assistance, I've listed 4 ways I can help you succeed in content development and content marketing. Go ahead and contact me at sporeconsulting.com. I hope now you're feeling like a content strategist with plans to deliver a consistent and repeatable approach to content that aligns with your brand, market, and broader sector. I'm always available for questions. Email me at matt@sporeconsulting.com or visit my website. Thank you for taking this course. I appreciate your time and attention, and I wish you every success.